Welcome to Whale Talk. That was the whale speaking to you. By the way, everybody, I got a new bow. It's whales. It's awesome. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Anyway, I'm going to stop being stupid. Welcome to an episode of Fancy Fan Fiction. Tonight we are going to be reading Twilight fanfiction. Everybody knows Twilight. Everybody makes fun of Twilight. And we haven't done it yet, so we're doing it. And as usual, I have Brittany with me. Say hi, Brittany. And tonight we have a special guest, my friend Kyrin. Say hi, Kyrin.
Hello.
Hello. So, name of the story that we are reading tonight is Midnight Lust by Drew Doe. And it is a smut collection of an Edward and Jacob love story.
On fanfiction.net.
Brittany will be playing the part of.
I will be the description, stage direction, and such.
I will be playing Jacob.
And I will be playing Edward.
Let's get it go!
Let us begin.
Do it!
Jacob stepped out of the shower, rolling his head through his wet and slicked back hair. His muscles, strong and magnificent, glimmered from the reflection from the light and the water that pulsed down his skin. He grabbed the closest towel, wrapping it around his muscular thighs, stepped out of the bathroom, releasing warm steam into the hallway. Each step Jacob made across the wooden floor gave off a small patter sound, each one growing closer towards his bedroom. He opened his bedroom door and walked into the darkness. The room was dimly lit. The alarm clock, which sat upon a small wooden table right next to the bed, read 1:34 a.m. He felt odd for a moment and was anxious.
Who there?
Jacob asked lightly. Footsteps began to resonate from the corner of the room. Jacob turned as fast as he could, bending into a defensive, beast-like position.
Easy, wolf boy,
the voice said in a playful tone. Edward? Jacob asked. The figure stepped forward, walking across the beam of moonlight from the window, exposing him.
Edward, what are you doing here?
Jacob asked, edging out of his defensive approach.
I've been having
Edward told him, appearing confused.
What do you mean?
Jacob asked him. Edward appeared nervous as he stepped towards him, moving his hand towards Jacob. Edward's hand moved across Jacob's body and explored the different ridges of his muscles. Jacob grabbed his hand.
What do you think you're doing?
I've always wanted to try something,
Edward whispered. Edward moved in on Jacob's face, moving his mouth to his. Edward's tongue inserted itself into Jacob's mouth, exploring every magnificent detail of his mouth. Jacob resisted, trying to push Edward off, but began to relax and slowly began to insert his tongue into Edward. Edward moved out of his mouth, but started down his chest, sucking on each nipple as he made his distance. His tongue moved across his six-pack and across his navel. Edward grabbed onto a towel that was wrapped around Jacob's hips. Edward looked up. Jacob looked confused and nervous, but he gave a quick nod. Edward ripped off Jacob's towel and looked down at Jacob's glory. It was erect, in an upright position, and Edward began to go to work. His mouth started to work at the tip. Edward could hear Jacob giving out a pleasurable sound, almost as if he was out of breath. Edward moved one of his hand upward, feeling Jacob's chest as he worked Jacob's member.
Oh God.
Edward, Jacob yelled out. Edward stood up, pulling off his tight black shirt, displaying his muscular pale chest. Jacob sat upright and started to undo Edward's belt buckle. Edward's cold hand helped him, which led to him pulling down Edward's pants. Jacob lay on the bed naked, as Edward stared at him in his black boxers and briefs, including his left shoulder.
Sorry. I don't know what took over me.
Edward said, looking confused and embarrassed. Jacob looked away, and then looked back into Edward's eyes. Jacob nodded slightly and smiled.
Just get over here, cold blood.
Jacob laughed. Edward smirked and slid down his boxer briefs, displaying his long member. Ooh, Edward climbed onto bed and sat directly on Jacob. As Jacob penetrated Edward, they both grasped onto bed sheets.
Oh, this hurts.
Edward yelled, biting his lip. Jacob gave out a gasp of pleasure, heaving his chest upward off the bed. Edward flipped his head upwards, as he had been completely penetrated. Edward moved back upward and started the process over again. Jacob moved one hand behind his black hair, closing his eyes and biting his lip.
Jacob!
Edward moaned out. Jacob opened his eyes and moved his hand up Edward's chest.
Fuck me.
Edward moaned out.
Behind me.
Jacob flipped over.
This is so terrible. This is terribly written.
Jacob flipped over, pushing Edward's face into the bed. Jacob began to thrust his pelvis over and over and over into Edward's behind. Edward gasped out, throwing his hand outward to grab a pillow. Jacob opened his mouth, giving out a beastly roar. I'm about to. Jacob gasped.
In me!
Edward whispered
Oh my god.
as he was grasping tight onto the pillow. Jacob kept thrusting until they felt it surge out of him. They both opened their mouth, giving out a moan in unison. Jacob pulled out and fell face first onto the bed. Edward twisted over directly towards Jacob. Jacob's chest was heaving, breathing absurdly fast. Jacob started.
That was great.
Edward smiled.
Yeah, it really was.
Edward responded. I was a fucking vampire.
Like fucking a popsicle.
Jacob laughed. Edward smiled and hugged up towards Jacob's pulsing muscles. They lay there for hours until the sun came up. Edward ran home, glittering from the sun, running from something he should not have done. But glad he did. Oh! Edward, Emmett, and Jacob.
Great.
I'm sorry, but Edward and Carlisle, Edward and Emmett,
It's like a daddy.
that's Wincest right there.
Wincest. It's Vincest.
He's Vincest.
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 Well, yeah, that was a thing. That was a thing. It was fun. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching. I'm Hayley.
Brittany.
Kyrin, thanks
And-
for having me.
Yes, of course. And this has been
Whale Talk.
Dude.
Now, it's okay if you fuck up because that makes us have bloopers.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Yeah, because I can't breathe with
It's okay.
I'm Edward. Shh. I'm Batman. I'm Edward.
Who there? Not even who's there, just get a who there.
Who there?
Who there? Who there?
Edward's tongue. Edward's tongue. Calm down. Slowly began to insert his tongue into Edward's.
Oh.
Into Edward's. Into Edward.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
Just making sure we're still all in frame.
Hold on.
Oh, Jacob.
Okay.
Did you go?
Yeah.
Did you come already? What is wrong, Jacob? Come
Jesus.
too soon?
Guys.
I'm doing
Be adult.
Like this is adult?
It is adult. It's very adult.
Oh, yes.
Really?
Jacob.
Jesus.
As Fucking shit. His word. It's probably the best line ever. Like fucking a popsicle. Jacob laughed. No, it was Kyrin.
I'm sorry. Okay, wait. Do I have to say it again?